Hey, so here's the flip, Jack. 26 cornerback Teray Davis out of Boulder, Colorado, flipped his commitment in the last 12 hours or so from UCLA to Texas. He's a kid the Longhorns have zeroed in on as they try to round out their class and fill some spots. And Steve Sarkisian does have a news conference this afternoon at 3 o'clock to go through the recruiting class. The headliners of this class, obviously, you haven't been paying close attention, are, again, a group of 5 stars led by the quarterback Dia Bell from Plantation, Florida. Father is Rajah Bell, of course. He's the heir apparent, or will be the immediate heir apparent to Arch Manning. But let's not forget about a kid named KJ Lacey, who's also running as the third-string quarterback for Texas right now, behind Matthew Caldwell, who's a one-year player. So Rajah Bell in the mix. Derek Cooper, running back out of Miami. Chaminade Madonna High School down there is the 5-star running back, which is huge. They also just added a commitment from the kid from Georgetown, Jet Walker, at that position. Best players on defense, Tyler Atkinson, a 5-star linebacker from Loganville, Georgia. Also a big defensive tackle that they landed from the Miami area. So it's another really good class. It's not as deep, I don't think, as far as that goes, but man, some really top-end talent. And let's be fair, Jack, when 80% of your roster or of your production this year in 2025 is underclassmen, guys want to come in and play from the high school level.
That's right.
And right now, Texas is going to have a lot of guys returning if they retain and how they retain it and into the offseason now, even if they don't make the playoff. So the flips, we'll see if they continue. 7 o'clock this morning, so about 24 minutes is when the DocuSign letters of intent will start to come in, and we will follow that. All right, as for Texas at number 13. Last night, the CFP chair, Hunter Yurachek, said this about Texas being on the wrong side of the bubble because we just presented all the facts of the strength of their schedule, the strength of their resume, the strength of their wins, which is greater than several of the teams ahead of them. But Hunter Yurachek said it's not that Texas lost to Ohio State, it's that Texas lost to Florida that is holding them back. And look, that's a fair argument, right? I mean, that's why I say Texas has to own the good with the bad. And several people say, well, they also own the ugly wins over Kentucky and Mississippi State. Well, look, they're wins. Remember last year, Georgia beat Kentucky by a single point in Lexington. It's the SEC on the road. If you get a win, you get a win. Yes, there's but in their own bylaws and their own principles, the CFP says margin of victory does not matter or margin of loss. It's about, the game. Did you win the game? And the Florida loss was bad, who finished 4-8. And we know the details of that. But I guess the question, and I think what Longhorn fans are asking, is why don't the quality of wins and the strongest strength of schedule of any of the teams in the top 16 and the 3 wins over top 13 teams, why doesn't that trump or at least weigh out over the loss to Florida when you weigh it against what Miami or Notre Dame or BYU haven't accomplished this year, the accomplishment versus the loss? I understand where we're at. It's why it's on the lines. It's why we said that the Monday after the Florida loss, that could be your Waterloo. That very well, if you can't beat Georgia and Athens, that could be the one that keeps you out because you leave it in the hands of the judges. Right now, it's in the hands of the judges. But what we're trying to do right now is make sense of what the judges are saying and what their own criteria are and why it's not lining up. And that's a fair question. And that is a question Steve Sarkisian was asked because, sure, it was about the Florida game, but clearly it's also about the Ohio State game. And Sark was yesterday on Sirius XM radio doing his media blitz. And here's Sark. When we talk about could the Ohio State game next September be considered for elimination? Listen to Sark yesterday and then ask yourself that question. Here's Sark on Sirius XM yesterday.
When you talk about future scheduling, if we don't get in,
I agree with Sark.
What's the point of
man.
playing Ohio State next year? There's no benefit to that. And we're going to 9 games in the SEC next year. And hey, I get it. There's going to be a network that's going to be upset we don't play that game because there's probably going to be 15, 16 million viewers that would watch that game. But I get no benefit from playing the game. It does nothing for me.
Sark?
And our
He's preach, buddy.
Coach, I have a responsibility to the University of Texas and our players to put them in the best position because to me what it looks like, just have a pretty record. And the prettier your record is, because all they've done, in my opinion, up to this point, if you're undefeated, you're ranked number 1, number 2, number 3. If you have 1 loss, follow suit. And then if you have 2 losses, follow suit.
All right, so Sark is, threatening, and that's not going to be his decision. Obviously, he'll have a say on it. And I don't think that game goes away. But as I've said many times, those Notre Dame games that are on the schedule for the end of the decade, especially with Notre Dame getting what appears to be favorable treatment within this regard because they have two losses too. And I know they were to Miami and to A&M, but Texas beat A&M head-to-head. I mean, this is why the loss column
by 10.
In boiling down what the committee said when their change on August the 20th of this year was the loss column won't be as penal as the win column will be favorable. Yet that's not holding because Texas has 3 losses versus Notre Dame's 2. And yes, Texas has an uglier loss than Florida had than Notre Dame has, but Texas has far and away more quality victories than Notre Dame or BYU or Miami.
Yeah.
So, and they have a head-to-head against one of the teams that beat Miami or beat Notre Dame. So that's the rub. Plus, if you just go to the SEC, and this is what Sark is saying, if we play Ohio State and lose it, then we have no margin for error, especially when we're playing another top 3 team on the road in our own conference with Georgia and Ohio State on the road, both in the top 3. We have no margin for a bad day. And that is why is it in our own benefit. And this is where fans, if they do start to cancel these games, as fans, the old school, I'm old enough, I understand you wanted a great non-conference game to bolster your resume in a 4-team playoff world or a 2-team playoff world.
You just don't need that anymore.
You don't need it anymore.
No.
And if, Indiana's proof of that. Notre Dame, I guess, is proof of that.
Indiana said it baldly. They called out that they made a point.
Yeah, it's like
they said we don't need that game. We need a pretty record, and they're right. They're 12-0.
Yeah, and they rolled the dice on that, and Texas could have canceled those games when they went to the SEC, and they didn't. And the fans are still had a great time going to Ann Arbor and going to Tuscaloosa the year before. That was the last year of the Big 12. But and now the brass tacks are hitting the table here. No. And let me play this for you. And here's Vic Schaefer. He's the head basketball coach at Texas. He did an interview yesterday with the Austin American-Statesman, and he has strong opinions on this too. He plays in the SEC in basketball. His team is number 2 in the country. Listen to Vic talking about his lack of understanding of how this is playing out for the Longhorns and his guy, Steve Sarkisian.
They played Ohio State to 1 possession and had the ball when the game was over, if I'm not mistaken. Ain't nobody else even been in the same zip code when they played those guys. But 3 top 10 wins, strength of schedule, did it in the SEC. I mean, when you look at some of those teams and their schedule that are going to get in, it ain't even apples. It's not even fruit to fruit, much less apples to oranges. It's not even close. So I don't understand how it's even being considered that they're not in. Like, I don't get it. Don't hold against them that they're 9-3. You don't have to justify their 9-3. Their 9-3 is way better than anybody else's 10-2. Think about that. And stop holding it against them that they lost an SEC game on the road at Florida. By the way, it was packed that night too. So I don't, and the other piece is, here's the deal. If they're going to hold that against them, then you might as well call every TV executive and tell them right now today, you can just forget college football in September because there's not going to be any games worth watching. You might as well call Sam Houston State, get them to renew the Piney Woods rivalry with Stephen F. Austin, and put that game on national TV. Because you're not going to get any University of to play another University of if you're going to penalize one of those teams, and one of them is going to get penalized because they lost. And in the SEC, they're fixing to go to 9 games, y'all.
All right, so there's Vic Schaefer, passionate about it as usual. And to his point, and I've said this all week, based on where we thought this was going and where Texas is, again, you have to own the bad. Right. I'm not saying that. I understand they lost to Florida. They lost to then number 1 and number 3 on the road. I get it. You own that. But it doesn't feel like they're getting credit for the good, right? And that's what the committee said they were going to do and value more. So because here's the thing. Notre Dame has some bad. They've got 2 losses. But what's their good? What's their good? That's
10.
Right. When USC, when you start comparing, like what's their good versus Texas's good?
10-9.
BYU's good. And to Vic Schaefer's absolute point, the business of college football, September games will go away. Indiana is number 2 in the country. Their September schedule this past year was Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, the Sycamores.
And Larry Bird was not on the team.
Yeah. They also had a conference game in there with Illinois in September, but that's a conference game. Their non-conference was Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. Did I mention earlier?
Illinois is not ranked anymore either, by the way.
I know. Well, again, those were conference games. Those are you designated. You got to play those. Did I give you what BYU did in the non-conference this year? Who they played? Portland State, Stanford, and East Carolina. You want to watch any of those on television?
No.
Okay. What is the highest rated and most viewed game of this year? To this day, more viewers tuned in to see what game? Texas versus Ohio State in Week 1. Okay, of all the regular season games. So if those go away, all right, welcome to the NFL in August. Welcome to preseason football, because we're all playing for December and January, and this is the precedent they're going to set here. And I understand Texas is up against it. There's already 5 SEC teams that are pretty much qualified, but that's why Sark and his side are putting out the statements against the other SEC teams. Like, we beat them head-to-head. So you're holding this Ohio State game against us. If we weren't, and that's what Sark is saying, we'll own our bad, but if we hadn't played the Ohio State game, we would be ahead of Oklahoma. We would be ahead of these teams who we beat head-to-head in our own conference games, but we're not, because we lost to Ohio State. And that's a valid point, because folks who want to criticize Texas for the losses also have to understand the point that they're in. Like, well, okay, if not for the Ohio State game, if we played Portland State, or we played Kennesaw, or we played Stanford, we wouldn't be here.
I think the most direct comp for Texas in this scenario is Alabama, because I think Alabama has the best win of the season, Georgia, and the worst loss of the season,
Florida State,
amongst playoff teams, of course, Florida State, where Texas has the second best win, A&M probably number 3, I mean, just by rankings, and OU if you want to put that in there, but the second worst loss, which is Florida. The difference is Texas played Ohio State, Alabama played Wisconsin. So I think the committee's answer is don't lose 3 games no matter what. No matter who is on your schedule, right. Don't lose 3 games.
Well, and we also know by January this thing's going to 14 or 16.
Great.
So,
and then we'll be in.
Yeah,
Fine.
Exactly. And I don't think the Ohio State game next year gets canceled. Maybe those Notre Dame games down the road.
Down year, we still beat A&M and OU.
I'll continue to holler from the rooftops. The one team that is being overrated the most in all of this is Notre Dame. And it's not close. And that still wouldn't get Texas in, by the way. Now, if Alabama loses and BYU loses this weekend, maybe, but then you still have Miami there, who should be ahead of Notre Dame as we sit here this morning.
Yeah, if I had to guess, if I'm predicting the future, I bet BYU loses to Tech again. Then it's going to be Miami at 11 and Notre Dame at 10, and then the committee has to put Miami in.
Right. With what? With what? A quality win over whom? Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. So if it's
again, A&M is their quality. Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, Miami.
Who's the most overrated team of all these teams.
So at number 10 and number 11, if they are sitting next to each other, they have a nice BYU-shaped buffer that's going to get brushed away. Then the committee should do the right thing. Even though Miami isn't good, they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And we did this in 2023 with Washington. Remember, they beat Oregon, and everyone said, "Oh, it's fluky. If they played again, Oregon would win." And then it didn't happen. Washington beat Oregon again and then went and beat Texas in the semifinal. So don't tell me Miami would lose to Notre Dame if they played again. That's based on nothing. We have a data point.
Well, no, we have your own principles, head-to-head.
We have a data point.
You have 3.
Miami won.
You have 3 core principles of how you select teams. Head-to-head is one of them. Strength of schedule is another. These are comparative things, and they're not even holding that up with the Miami Notre Dame situation. And certainly Texas is not being rewarded for the quality victories that they have versus anybody else.